Yeah, breaking news. It's Wednesday, new comic book day, and it's book club. So welcome back to another new comic book day book club. That means I'm here with Alec from Why Well Comics.
Heyo,
I'm not in Florida anymore.
I am.
I mean, you're still there.
Yeah.
You didn't escape the escape room.
No.
That was the goal of the trip, right? Escaping the escape room.
Yeah. Well, for you, you succeeded.
I did.
Yeah.
I made it back to California.
Congratulations.
We're doing a very unusual episode of Book Club. We don't have a ton of guests on this show. It really has to be somebody that I feel like you or I or both of us know and really enjoy their work. And just so happened while we were bumming our way around MegaCon, we found a comic book creator that I've interviewed a couple of times. I've had the pleasure of talking with a bunch, and he has a new comic book for March. So it's perfect that we can share it today. We've got David Booher. Welcome in.
Yeah, we come as a package deal because you also have Dungeon Master, and of course, Avengers. It's already off the rails, guys.
I love it.
I was gonna say Florida feels like one big escape room right now.
I was
You've got
surprised
4
by
seconds.
there were so many escape room places. Like as I was driving around, I was like, "Oh, there's another escape room place." There's
Well,
another...
they build them to distract you from the fact that you are in a real life escape room.
You bust through the door. You're like, "Is this the way out?" They're like, "No, go back to Tallahassee."
So I put the link down below for the IDW link for if you want to purchase copies of Dungeons and Dragons, the Saturday morning Adventures edition. The link is in the description for the video. I also dropped some links for David as well in the chat, and we'll continue to drop some of those. But yeah, this is going to be a DnD show, and I don't know if I prepped you, David, that Alec and I have a weekly D&D game that we've been playing on YouTube for basically since COVID started. We've been playing.
What?
Yeah.
You can actually watch it?
Yeah. I mean, would you is the better question, but yes,
I personally would.
It is possible.
We can talk about my origin story with D&D.
Yes, please.
But one of the things that I've done recently is actually watched campaigns being played on YouTube, because I know a lot about D&D. My reference manuals are right behind me. They're all tabbed and all kinds of stuff, to do research and stuff. But I find it's so
tabbed.
Yes.
Oh, come on. I'm like, you can't show me up. This is my wall of secrets behind you. Right,
yeah,
Tabby
there it is. I love it.
Tony's in the chat. Old Wolf, who is part of our D&D campaign, who he's very proud that he was
there's
able
6 of us that play
to roll a 0.
Yes, he rolled a 1 with a negative 1 modifier.
A dirty 0.
But that reminds me.
It was achieved. It was an achievement
to
get that 0.
Yeah, he signed the die, and he's never going to use it again.
Yeah, but so I started my D&D journey. It started with this cartoon when I was a kid. I loved it so much, and I watched it, and just felt so passionate about it. And then the nostalgia for it now is just through the roof. I'm getting to the age where I'm longing for all those childhood things, right? So that's and then I got steeped in it when I started working on being a nerd and being in nerddom. You get steeped in all these different kinds of fandoms, and D&D sort of peripherally. And then, of course, I did a bunch of research for this comic, but I've never actually played a campaign. And the reason is because I've watched them on YouTube. I've watched how to play on YouTube. So I feel comfortable doing it. When I watch the groups get together and the DM do the campaign and everybody playing, it just feels to me that you have to have exactly the right group. Otherwise, it could go off the rails so quickly, right?
I mean, but I will say going off the rails is kind of the fun.
Well, in not a good way, because I think there would be fun ways to go off the rails.
Oh, always.
But if you don't get the right people, I've been kind of intimidated to actually do a campaign. So That's my big dark secret is I love the world. I love all of, and I'm very familiar with every, monsters and everything that's in there. It's just taking that and dipping my toe in the pool of
Sure.
actually doing it. Plus, it's such a huge time commitment.
That it is. I think that's the big, like, tricky part for a lot of people. And I think, like, honestly, more so than a good group is to have a good DM, because you get someone, you talk about going off the rails, a DM who's flexible and able to be like, okay, you guys want to do this crazy thing, I'm going to let you do this crazy thing.
Yes, and I think that's the key. That's a good group, is folks who understand the game and have fun with it and go off the rails in fun ways, and a DM responds to that. I just worry I get into a group where they're not, like, I would be funny with I would try to be funny. I'd fail 98% of the time, but I try to be funny 100% of the time. And that would be my joy. And I just would worry that, folks would not be on board with that. So
No, I think
fair warning.
I've never played in a group like that before. But I also think, especially for people that are learning how, like, there's a ton to know. And so I think having a group that's super supportive of the journey that you're on, wherever you're in the knowledge of the game.
I was watching it on YouTube, and the players, they would do, there'd be an obstacle and they'd roll the die. And I got that part. And then they said, oh, I rolled a 6 +2 charisma, -1 this, +3. And I'm just like, what is happening? Right
There's a
now?
whole algebra.
Well, I know, and you have your character sheet and everything. So I would like a D&D handler, please, who could just stand next to me and go,
you have to add this.
Say charisma +1 and you'll be a hero. Charisma +1. Boom. Walk away.
Well, and
the Cyrano behind me, the D&D Cyrano de Bergerac, who's just telling me how to play.
There's a great, I guess, meme, little short video of this guy. She has this. It's just a shot of a piece of paper, and it says the point of D&D is like, it's like a check boxes, and it says, like, to have fun with friends, to go on great adventures, like, has like a few things like that. And then you see him, he like goes to check it off, and then the camera just pans all the way down and just says make dick jokes, and he checks that. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's just like,
my God, I'm so in.
Just making dumb jokes with your friends.
Right.
I mean, my current character is a surfer dude named Gargle D's Nuts. So
he's chaotic. Good.
He's actually lawful good.
He's very
lawful
good.
But he
has, by the rules, doing the right thing by the rules.
But he has gone down a dark path the last couple of weeks.
Come on, Mama, says D&D Cyrano. I actually think that's a great idea for somebody, especially get like an actor who is like big fancy movie star who has to play D&D, and then they get the person behind the scenes just telling them everything to do, and then they like have a grudge, and so they start telling him all the wrong things to do.
Start messing with him,
and he becomes like completely vilified by the fandom because he did everything wrong.
TM copyright David Booher.
Yeah.
Type.
I wanted to highlight because Kevin, another Cali guy that I know is in the chat, and he says his son Kai says to say hi as well.
Kevin, did you see that beautiful slab that's behind John right now? I noticed that when the screen got big. Not that one, the one above it.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding.
No,
is that
the nice one, the 9.8 one?
Who's the one above it? The Avengers? Is that Kang?
No, it's actually Avengers 1 and 2. Right after I said hi to you.
Yeah.
No big deal.
No, the story is even a bigger deal in the book.
So right after I said hi to you,
pushed the kid over.
Some friends waiting for me.
This was literally across from your table.
Yeah.
John's comics pushes kids.
There was bloodshed. No, a friend had bought it and was gifting it to me. Avengers 1. He gave it to me with it like 5 seconds after I said hi to you.
Well, I'm glad it was after, because you wouldn't even remember. My face would have been just a blurry version of that slab.
Yeah, he was not present the rest of the day.
There's a lot of curse
Who is
words.
this friend, and how can I befriend this friend?
This is exactly it. Yeah, Steve. His name is Steve Whiting, and Steve is a crazy man. He's a crazy. He gave me the other one too. He gave me both of these at different
That's
points in the
wonderful.
last few years. I owe
That's
him
wonderful.
my firstborn at some point.
Sounds like first newborn.
There are videos of him getting the book. So
yes,
Are they really? Were you?
Lots
what
of
did you
swear
do?
words.
Did you just like
he
lose your mind?
yeah.
It was a rough moment. I'm glad I kept my composure a little bit.
And humorously, apparently everyone in our large group knew except for John and me.
Yeah. Well,
So
you came up later and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, I was looking at something else at a table because I didn't know what was about to happen because I wasn't looped in on this amazing
Oh my God.
moment. And then I turn around and I just see John cursing a bunch and holding a book. I'm like, what just happened?
It was buck wild.
That is wonderful. I think that's so wonderful that you've built relationships in the comic community that, you know, people feel that connection. I mean, look at when I've never met you in face to face until MegaCon. And I'm like, I know that face.
I'm still high on the fact that like I walked, you're like, it's John, and I was like, wait.
Sounds like I had about 5 seconds of priority before that Avengers 1 came into your life. So
right.
I mean, John,
glorious 5 seconds, glory.
How many years have you and I, quote unquote, known each other, John?
It's coming on 5 years.
Yeah, and we met in person for the first time at the end of 2019. So it was, a good 2.5, 3 years before we ever met face to face. And, I don't know if he feels the same way, but he's one of my best friends.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, I wouldn't keep doing this show otherwise.
You just feel a sense of obligation.
You made me read so many Guardians of the Galaxy comics on the show.
Hey, the new one came out this week.
I know.
I'm just waiting for Alec to slide that Avengers 3 slab over through the screen.
I gave him a Young Avengers #1.
He did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
the new Guardians came out. I haven't read it, but somebody said it kind of reads a little like Firefly, and I that made me very interested.
Which I see right there, right behind you.
You mean this Firefly?
Yeah,
right there.
That one.
You know, I wrote it. I wrote for Firefly, right?
I did not know this.
What?
The comics?
I knew you wrote
not the
show.
Not the show.
Hold my die.
Okay.
You wrote for the show, or I knew you wrote the comics.
The comics, yeah.
The all new Firefly, right?
All new Firefly. I got 2 of them right here, and a third one's coming out. It's for pre-order right now. It's called The Gospel According to Jane. It's called The Gospel According to Jane, and it's a 11-issue Jane story that I got to do. And then I got to do River Run, which was a story about how Simon...
am I so misinformed about the guests on my own show?
I don't know. I knew his bibliography better than you, apparently.
Are you a Firefly fan, right?
Yes, I am. Okay. I just last year, I showed it to my girls for the first time, so now they're fully caught up on all the media, all the
good.
Not the comics. I should say all the film and TV.
You can skip the first 36 issues. No, I'm just kidding. There's 36 issues, and then they restarted with all new Firefly, which is what I got to write.
And this is what is the company? Boom Studios.
Okay. Boom. Yeah, I got to do all new Firefly, which kind of continued the 36 issues after, kind of continues the continuity after the show. Okay. And then they restarted at 1, but it's still in the same continuity. So we're about 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years maybe after the show ended. But I also did the one-shot River Run, which tells the story of how Simon got River out of the Academy and off of Osiris to get her to Persephone onto Serenity.
Right.
And that's when the pilot episode opens.
Right.
So I got to tell that story, and I love Firefly.
A good brother
so
sister story. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I have a twin brother.
Yeah. So
that's how I pitched the angle to the story to Boom. I said I want to approach it like a using my own experience as an identical twin, growing up with a sibling so close.
Yeah.
This is what I want to bring to the story, and they really like that, and I almost think I could have told it in any sort of way bringing that level of authenticity to it. And I think that's what they really liked about it.
That's awesome.
That's what I liked about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I see. Obviously,
Stay
Carrie
shining.
is is a big fan. And Tony, you don't have to shame me. I appreciate you. Is he the younger or the older twin? What are you doing, right?
That's the very first, question I always get. I am 6 minutes older, and you better believe that I lord every one of those 6 minutes over my brother like we were 8 years old again.
He should know.
Wiser.
Yeah.
I mean, just the world,
just
the world
experience that he could never catch up on.
ever. And he also he was born with a black eye, so I think I kicked him on the way out.
Just popped him one before mom could
I was
tell.
like, you stay here for 6 minutes, set a timer.
Yeah. Start counting.
Good. Well, I mean, maybe we should talk about your comic that's just new on the shelves. Dropped in March. New issue comes in 2 weeks.
You got
is this
a fancy 1 in 10?
Ooh, the foil.
With a certificate of authenticity. So I made those. I'm such a nerd. So I made those certificates so when I sign it, I can put it in the comic, because you know how comics works.
How we are.
We all know how comics works. Yeah, this is the beautiful 1 in 10 incentive by Tim Levins. My personal favorite cover. It's accurate to the original animation.
Very, very evokes the cartoon very well. And if success of a variant correlates at all to the popularity of a book, I'd say it seems to be doing very well, because that is going for some stupid money right now.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conundrum. It's a tension there, because I think one of the reasons that it's popping is because it's everybody loves the cover. It's a nostalgia cover. That's 100% it. But I think it's popping because I know what the pre-orders were, so I roughly know what the print run is on this incentive variant. But I also think there was a lot of shops that didn't buy in for full 10. So I think if you look on like the Schmeebay right now, you might see 5 copies of this out there, whereas some of the big 2 books that have hot variants, you're going to see 100 of them on there.
Right.
No, I mean,
so I think.
I mean, I work for a comic company and a comic book store company, and we are one of the larger comic retailers in the country. And so we got a few copies, but I don't imagine that a lot of stores
bought into the 10.
more than one, if anything, which is a shame, because it's a fun book.
Which shop is it?
Coliseum of Comics.
Well, you probably didn't see my post that after MegaCon ended, I could not get enough. So at 5:30 p.m., I went to the Millennia store of Coliseum of Comics, and I met all the folks there. We all geeked out. I got to sign some comics. They held one of these for me.
That's awesome.
And it was, I don't want to say it. It was much less expensive than I had planned on spending. So,
well, you're welcome, because I priced the variants for the company.
Do you really?
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, I pulled it off the shelf. I bought it immediately,
and
I'm going to hold on to it.
I priced it low because at the time when I was pricing it, I mean, this is shop talk.
It was probably 1 week.
No one. Yeah, no one cares listening to this, but there were no copies on eBay when I was pricing it, so I just had to guess. And then later that week, I went and looked back. I was like, "Oh, I messed up."
So I'm a complete monster of a person and creator, because I was watching eBay, and you go back to the sold listings and you start on release day, and you can see the solds for this variant cover, and it starts at like $12 and it goes up to $70, and it's just it's terrible where you get your endorphins from, right?
I mean, it's something, like I said,
that dopamine. I'm like, ooh, another $70 sale. Ooh, look how important I am. Ooh.
It is something to be proud of, because like I said, like if there were no interest, I know there is a separate market for variant covers that people just buy it for the collectability or the cover or whatever. But like, no matter how cool a cover is, if people don't care at all about a book, people aren't going to care about the variant.
Yeah, I think it tapped such a nostalgia,
Yeah.
a moment of nostalgia, and I forget what else I was going to say. I'm so high on my own supply that I just can't even put my thoughts
I was going to
together.
say it's sold out at both my LCS and their sister store in San Diego, so they both sold out.
And I mean, also, I think that it's a unique thing because obviously D&D is huge and it's never really gone away. But, you know, we live in a world where, you know, our generation and all the shows and the stuff that we grew up with have, for the most part, been reintroduced. Like Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, like Transformers, all this stuff we get ad nauseum. But this specific property has kind of been really absent. And I think a lot of people of our age group have a similar nostalgia for it. And to have this come out and be like, oh my goodness, like this is an itch that really needed scratching.
Right. I mean, that's why I loved writing the story. Because they're treating it as a lost episode of the show. So it really is kind of diving back in with the same characters, doing the same types of adventures that they did when they were when it was airing back in the 80s. So to be able to visit this, dive into this world and help them go on this new adventure is just wild. It's wild to write these scripts, and I can hear Presto's voice. I can hear Eric's voice. I can hear Hank. I know if I got two characters together in a room together, I know what they're going to say to each other because I know their personalities.
Sure.
And can you imagine having a job where I've turned there's a TV in my office right here in front of me, and can you imagine I'm writing scripts and we're actually watching cartoons that I loved from the 80s on the screen right now. So it was a wild, surreal, wonderful experience to be able to do this.
I bet.
You get a lot of opportunity, if you're lucky, you get a lot of opportunities to write licensed books.
Yeah.
But the opportunity to write something you're so steeped in, like you're so passionate about, it turns out differently, I think.
And I mean, John can attest to this, that, I do not shy away from shitting on books, but I will. So
Here we go. All right.
No.
How much longer are we going to be on this podcast?
He will attest that, like, I wouldn't say something nice just to say it, and I really enjoyed this because you didn't take it in a direction that was like, oh, I'm going to bring this up to, like, the modern age, and I'm going to make this like this dark story. Like, you kept it feeling like the same lighthearted, fun adventure that, we remember from being kids. It like you said, it felt like a lost episode in the best possible way. I don't mean like it felt hokey and dated. It felt like good and fun and entertaining in these characters that, like, you haven't seen in 30 years. All of a sudden we're right back to where I remember them. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if I don't know how much we want to dive into, but, like, I laughed out loud when Dungeon Master did his entrance and exit. Like, I was like, oh man, this takes me back. Like, it's such a great
I
wait until you get to the last issue. Wait until you get further in, I'll just say.
My wife's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, it's the Dungeons and Dragons comic. It's hilarious. And she's like,
I legitimately chuckled quite a few times.
Oh, good, because I really tried to continue that on in the rest of the issues. My two favorite characters are Presto and Eric, and Presto is fun because I identify with him so much as the inept. Like, I always would love. The number one thing would be, if I could have any ability, it would be magic, like to be able to be a magician or a wizard. And then, but also I'd be terrible. I'd be terrible at it. I'd be doing Presto's, let me pull nonsense out of my hat and hope for the best. And then I love Eric because he's so funny to write for. He's he's like the whiny kid who just finds a way to whine about everything, no matter what's going on, but in a funny way. He's got the punchline. So I loved writing Eric. But you talk about how we wanted to keep it authentic to the show, and I really think that we hit that. We really did, really keep it close to the show. But I did, toward the end of the arc, you will see that we touch on just a little bit the reality. The setup for the show really is extraordinary, right? You've got a whole group of. Did you know these kids are like Bobby's 9?
Yeah.
And Sheila and Hank are like 14, 13 years old. It's like they don't look like that in the show.
They're separated from their families, and
they're trying to get back, and they're a man with one horn and a dress
is
trying to kill them, and he rides a nightmare horse, and then there's a 6-headed dragon who's pissed off for some reason we don't really know, but we kind of know, and they're mad at each other, and everybody's mad at everybody, and these kids are just trying to get home. And it's really, there's a moment when you step back and you're like, well, this is really not great, everyone. This could really go wrong very quickly. So we touch on it toward the end of the series that just that fear that they must all be feeling, even though they're having fun and they're going on these adventures and they always triumph. It's like that fear that, are they ever going to get home? And if they do, are they all going to make it? We don't know, So I don't want to get, we don't get too dark about it, but I think it works really well in the story that we've told, where there is that anxiety of, we keep looking for a way home. Once we find it, who are we, what are we going to look like? What's our party going to look like? Who are we going to be when we get there?
I dig that.
Well, those are so one of the best fantasy comics I've read in the last few years is Die. And for me, like, that was some of the central drama of Die, right? Is like, who are you in the game and who are you when you get home? And can you get home? And does this change who you are and your understanding of each other? And I don't think you're trying to do the same heady drama that obviously Stephanie Hans was trying to create with Kieran Gillen, but the concepts are the same, because you're talking about role play and then being, as a child, trapped in a fantasy world. There is some of that truth there, right?
Right, and the responsibility that some of the folks in this party feel toward the others. Because
I was excited.
Ultimately, it's about leadership and who's going to be the leader, and what is heavy is the head that wears the crown. So
yeah, and you already kind of see you setting that up in this issue where, they're like, go through the portal, and he's like, no, I'm in charge.
And Sheila's like, no, we're going through this portal.
Because otherwise we're gonna die. So
yeah.
Well, and some of the debate of like, no, I kind of like it here. Like, do I want to go back? Like, there's
like,
the line schism.
It's like, the line's like, what are we going to do? Go back to the 7th grade or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like,
and that's
terrible.
Really, when you start thinking, so, as you're writing the scripts, you're thinking about these things, and you think about that, it's like, that's like Stockholm Syndrome level stuff. Because they are running for their lives constantly in this world, and for them to sit back and say, I'm getting really tired, maybe this isn't as bad as we think it is, and nothing has changed except their perspective on what's happening to them.
Is that a commentary on the world as it is in our universe?
If I'm not going to say anything to that, except if a portal opens,
you're jumping through it.
I would be eyeing that and see.
So when you find the roller coaster ride into Dungeons and Dragons, you're like, "Where's my ticket?"
Yeah.
Yes. No, we don't need wheels. Where we're going, we don't need wheels. Take them off that cart.
Yeah. I pulled up a few panels that I thought were really kind of cool, and I just wanted to highlight. And obviously we mentioned I mentioned the Dungeon Master, his cameo a lot, but I also like the opening panel where you get to like see everybody and you get like a fun recap on who all the characters are. I thought this came out really well. I know
all
it's not
credit to Sam Meggs who created that, who had that idea. So good job, Sam.
I'm not saying it has to look exactly like the cartoon. I'm kind of glad that it has its own aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
But the reminder of all of who, these different characters and what they got. Obviously, the intro to the show like gave you a ton of the like plot every time. Like there was no like typical theme song. It was just like, let me explain the story.
It was just Dungeon Master zapping each one and going,
right,
Cavalier.
Yeah.
Magician.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Thief. Meanwhile, Cavalier, Thief, and Magician, I don't think are
no
classes.
No.
In D&D. But just I thought it's so brilliant because like we know this is all the creators. We know this is all complete nonsense. But this is how we're going to open this show.
Right.
And people, they loved it. They loved it. So you can overthink exposition and opening and how you deliver it and all that stuff, but and sometimes all it takes is Dungeon Master zapping a bunch of children.
That's a t-shirt right there. And going back to that page really quickly, it's really easy because you see pages like that in comics a lot where it's like, here are the characters, here's a little information about each of them, and it can be so stale. But like each one of these little boxes of information had amusing bits in it, and it made you want to read the next one.
Right.
So,
well, and I think it was also again, that was Sam, and kudos to doing this because each box reflects a little bit of the personality of the character. So when Hanks's the weaknesses are scratched out, you're like, of course Hank's going to scribble out his weaknesses. And then I forget what the other ones are. I'm already like working through future issues.
Actually, I was going to ask you, like, how many issues are you scheduled to do for this?
4. So this is going to be a 4-issue arc, and then there's I have to stop there.
Will you have like Bobby?
Sorry.
You have to stop telling us about it there, or you have to stop writing it?
Oh no, I have to stop talking. At that point. So I'm like holding it up.
I can bring it up.
Your graphic wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough, John.
You can read it if you want.
Uni, strength, cute, weakness, being a baby.
Yeah.
I like that. It looks like Sheila wrote on Bobby's.
Yeah.
It says Sheila's younger brother.
Younger. Yeah.
Like correct.
So it was just giving them a little tiny touch of personality.
Yes.
Which I really loved. And it feels very D&D to me to have the character stats right there.
For sure. Completely. There was another sort of spread page that I thought was pretty spectacular, which is the portal sequence.
Yeah.
I loved this. I think obviously there's a lot of artistic fun that can happen here, but I think it's just also, I just love the you've got characters upside down, you got characters falling through the side. The Uni looks like it's having a blast.
Yeah, I was gonna say Uni just doesn't have a thought in her head. For his head.
Uni was such a fun character to write, to be honest. First of all, this was George. I think so. So the script does have, these are all references to different realms, and if you ask me to name all of these, we're going to end right here, and I'm going to sign off. I can pull up the script and tell you, but I can't. No. But George really took this and ran with it, and just created this really fun moment of them just going through all these different realms. And just having fun. But Uni is so fun to write for because Uni can't talk. So all she does is that really obnoxious, lamb.
The whinny sound. Yeah.
Man. That thing.
Yeah.
A bleat.
A bleat.
Yeah.
A bleat is exactly what it is.
Okay.
That's actually really funny. If I get an opportunity, I'm going to write in where it sounds like they'll never let it through, but it sounds like when Uni is swearing, You can just put bleat. You put an actual word. Just put bleat over it.
Oh, so you could have a different character's cursing, and then her bleat like goes right over the top. Her word bubble goes right over the top.
Well,
the bleat.
That's very funny. Okay, I'm taking notes on that one too.
Do it.
No, but she's so fun to write because it's like she doesn't have any. She has such personality, but doesn't have any lines. So what do you do? What do you do? So I put these little comedy bits in later issues where she can really be part of all the fun of fighting all these different creatures and doing all these different things, and really be part of the team without ever having to do anything but bleat, as Alex says.
Yeah.
Just bleat part of the team. Yeah.
That's a quality fun.
I'm gonna do that swear thing.
And then I did save the dungeon master because I just thought it was his like I came to warn you all, and then he's like, okay, good, you guys are
I'm
good.
going to get snacks.
Now I'm going to get snacks. I can't wait for you to see how Dungeon Master returns in this arc.
I just that character I always felt like was
Can we swear on this?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It's John's Comics sans kids.
I mean,
Well,
technically,
yay.
I'm almost John's Comics with teens at this point, so it's less kid friendly.
I don't even know why I was going to swear. Alex, you just took the
Sorry.
We'll just bleed
bleed
it later.
Yeah.
Oh, he's kind of an asshole to these kids. He's like, I'm going to send you on really dangerous adventures, and I'm just going to disappear. And then when I come back, I'm going to tell you a riddle that you may or might not figure out before you die.
Yeah. And
That
like
is exactly
it's not
his
like he's helpless. Like clearly he has magical abilities, but he's like, good luck.
Here's your escape room, kids. It's the Forgotten Realms.
Welcome to Florida.
Welcome to Florida. Yeah, but I always wondered about that, but that's okay. I think there's a funny bit in there if somebody were to make fun of the show. Like Dungeon Master comes in and does a riddle and leaves, and the kids are like, he could have just killed the dragon for us, couldn't he? And Dungeon Master pops in and he says, yes,
Yep.
I could have. Yep.
But you won't learn anything that way. He's like a terrible, irresponsible Mr. Miyagi.
Do you have to watch the video that Paramount put out a video where the kids from the cartoon are watching a. Did you see it?
Yeah.
And they're seeing the party in the movie.
Yeah.
And then they show the cameo, the live action cameo of this team, the cartoon team.
Yeah.
And at the end, they're all like, "What is that supposed to be us?" And Bobby says, "I think it's kind of cool that we're live. We have live action counterparts." And Eric says, "You should be the most pissed. You're 9 years old. That guy looks like he's 40."
I don't think I've seen that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I
saw a different one where they're kind of like making fun of the fact that people are complaining about like the accuracy of certain like D&D aspects. And they're like, D&D is a thing where you can do whatever you want. That's the whole point, basically what they're saying.
Right. I think that's the one I saw.
Yeah.
This one is the cartoon. They have different voices, and they're obviously different voices. And I think that was the part of the bit, part of the joke. And they're looking at themselves as the live action ones inside this crystal ball, and they're like, "What is happening right now?" And then they have all these different funny lines. But on a bringing it back down a little bit, D&D is really challenging property to write for and to create stories for, because the whole conceit of it is that you create your own heroes, and to create a hero and a party for a particular thing, like the movie, like the cartoon, that people are going to identify with, is really a challenge for this game that you can create your own.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that the movie seems to have succeeded in doing that, and the cartoon.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I've heard mostly nothing but good things.
It could be
Same.
worse than the first movie they
Oh my
made back
God.
with.
How dare you?
Wasn't that Marlon Wayans?
Was playing the unforgettable character Snails. That was his name.
Did you actually not forget that, or did you look it up?
that has been like a brain worm since I saw that movie. Is that guy was named Snails?
A brain snail?
Yeah, brain snail. There you go.
Just slowly, it's like Futurama. Just slowly sucking your brain.
It's like I have TikTok songs running in this side of my head, and the fact that there was a character named Snails in this side of my head, and that's all I can do all day long.
What more do you need?
In my head, it's like we were talking offline that we're all huge Simpsons fans. So you will know this reference, where my brain is like Homer saying, "The ballet, I love the ballet." Hot Bubble is the circus.
Yeah,
It's like a player on a
unicycle. Yeah.
Are you thinking of the circus, Homer? No. That's my brain all the time.
That's a pretty good place to live.
I like it.
I mean, I don't want to get off track and talk about Simpsons too much, but if you had to pick one
Let's
episode,
go.
what's your favorite?
It's a really odd episode. I like Homer's phobia. That's great. That's one where he meets John, the gay guy at the curio shop.
No, that's a really good one.
think I've seen
Marge
that.
says, "You haven't seen that one?"
I don't think so.
It's John Waters, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
John.
please.
And Marge,
guess-
you know me. I like my beers cold and my homosexuals flaming. Oh, Homer. The 90s were great. It's such a great episode because it actually, it's so relevant. It was in the 90s. I think it was like season 7 or something.
Yeah.
So it was like 96, 97. And it's so relevant today because he touches on all the same things that people, go through and think. There's that one. There's one where at least I love Itchy and Scratchy Land, where nothing can possibly go wrong. It's the first thing that's gone wrong.
I'm a
and I
big,
love all the Treehouse of Horror.
Yeah.
Classic.
I'm a big Hank Scorpio fan.
Scorpio.
I'm gonna give him the bum's rush.
I can't think of any lines from that episode, but then I'll watch it. And of course, 100 lines or things we use every day. We were just talking about King Size Homer, and what did we run through? 15 lines?
Yeah, at least. We practically recited the whole episode. Anyway.
No, I mean,
we'll do a different show one day about. We can talk about Simpsons for now.
We'll just go through Simpsons episodes. I mean, I'm gonna give away the cliffhanger end here because
how dare you?
Issue 2 is coming in a couple of weeks,
and we are traditionally a spoilers show.
Spoiler alert! They're coming.
Right?
It's nothing but spoilers.
The portal reveals where when they get to the end here, we have someone waiting for them. Did you want to talk a little bit about what people can be looking forward to as they continue on in this journey?
Well, I mean, it does state that they are in Waterdeep. They're from the Forgotten Realms, and they end up in Waterdeep.
They can expect fabulous storytelling, funny jokes, and just to feel an emotional connection. No, I'm just kidding.
A nostalgia connection is what I think that's what
is that all vague enough for you? Is that all vague enough
that's
for you?
Perfectly vague.
Well, so this is a character that they are going to meet and find out that she is in somewhat of a predicament that they may be able to help, and partly in helping this new character, they may be able to find, you guessed it, a way home. And I will point out, without spoiling too much of it, that the story arc that we're doing is called Prisoner of the Deep. And so that might give you a little hint of what this new character is going through and how they might be able to help her.
Well, we certainly know Dungeon Master's not going to help her, so.
He's busy going to get French fries.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, the highest praise I can give a book is when I get to the last page and I think, that's it? because I want to keep reading it. And
this is a fast read. I'll be honest with you. This issue is really, there's a couple double page spreads, and we try not to really bog it down in a lot of
exposition and yeah. I mean, it did read very quickly, but like it wasn't that it felt short. That's not why I wanted to keep reading it. It was because like I was like, this is fun. I'm having a good time, and I want more pages of this.
And I think when it all gets collected into a trade and you sit down and you read that trade, it'll be a quick read, but it'll feel like, maybe it's a 23-minute read, and that's like exactly how long an episode is, right? So we're going to take you on all those little twists and turns, and by the end, you're going to be really, you're going to feel something. You're going to laugh. You're going to, you're going to want to come back to the Forgotten Realms with this particular party and enjoy more adventures. So I will tell everybody who is watching this to please go and order, buy it off the rack, order it, pre-order the new issues coming out, because the more that happens, the more likely we can convince IDW and Wizards of the Coast to continue on with this forgotten season of Dungeons and Dragons Saturday Morning Adventures.
I love it. And Carrie mentioned that earlier in the show. Like it wasn't long enough. I just want more. So buckle up and tell your LCS that you want to get that on your pull list for the next 3 months. So
we got some cool monsters coming. Yeah, and some cool iconic monsters that will make their appearance. It's funny, some of the parallels that I've seen from this and in the movie. So it'll be fun to see them in different media,
Absolutely. So I was curious when I finished it and when I was knowing that we were going to talk. You haven't played DnD, but if you were gonna play, did you have a class that you were thinking of? Like, I want to try out being a rogue or a fighter or a magic user of some kind. Sorry, my cat.
I wanted to be your cat.
Yeah.
Can I pull out the?
No, absolutely.
Okay. Because I looked at the. I don't want to get the terminology wrong and then just be absolutely destroyed.
No. And I just didn't know if you were like, am I more of a, because you mentioned magic earlier, the magician character.
Yeah. So I would be a wizard, but I was looking at like there's like
sorcerers, and then there's wizards, and then of course you have.
I want to be the wizard who is the magic user. The sorcerer has wild magic. And I want to be the wizard who can sort of learn it. But isn't there like a draconic wizard that has some dragon? Like any character can really have like draconic blood, right?
Right. So there's classes and then there's races. So you can be like a dragonborn.
Dragonborn. That's what. Yeah, I want to be a dragonborn wizard.
Yeah.
Who is chaotic neutral. Who I want to be? This is so funny. Now that we talk about it, I want to be Presto, but Dragonborn Presto, who has all this extra power because he's Dragonborn, but he's also bumbling and doesn't know how to use it. So I think that would be such a fun character to play, because everybody would be kind of like, we know you're harmless, Presto, but also we don't know when that draconic characteristic's going to come out and just kill us all. So I think it'd be so fun.
I love it. Well, and those, I mean, at least the fun I get of D&D is the role play, like being able to just go into a scenario and be like, I'm sorry, this is going to ruin it for everybody, but I'm going to make this choice and I'm going to say this thing and do this thing. We're just going to have to deal with it because that's what he or she would do,
I think right. You and I are both, which is why like I think I'm probably a better DM than I am a player, because I don't want to say that like I test the DM, but like I don't care what the DM thinks about what I'm doing. Like I'm just gonna be like, I want to do this, so I'm gonna try to do this. I don't care if it messes up what you clearly are trying to do right now.
I mean, a good DM is gonna put you in a corner and make you roll a natural 20 to get out of it, right? Fine, you want to do that, Alec? You got to roll a natural 27. and one died.
His character went through like a mental breakdown.
Says, no kidding, Alec. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a mental breakdown.
His character went through like a mental breakdown and then spent like an entire episode just wandering the city in like just self-doubt.
Until I murdered someone with my bare hands.
It was quite entertaining.
Is that just like a Tuesday for you, or
in my character IRL? Or for me?
On IRL?
No, I'm a pacifist in real life.
Okay.
Who's your DM?
Right now, it's another gentleman.
Actually, right here in the chat. That's our dungeon. It's on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, so
JP is our DM.
This is the third campaign we've done. I DM'd the first one. We played Curse of Strahd, and then another one of our players decided they were gonna. His name Big Will. He wanted to try to DM, so he did a campaign for the next one, and now JP is doing Ghost of Saltmarsh.
So these are all campaigns that they're like pre-made campaigns.
So Big Will tried to do his own, which
it's so challenging.
I know, especially like it was his first time DMing, and he did, for the fact that it was his first time DMing, he did a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Coming up with everything and making it like cohesive. But I mean, I'm probably one of the more experienced players in the group, and I can't imagine making my own campaign.
Yeah, I feel like somebody mentioned it once that Canto, early on, somebody said it kind of feels a little like a D&D campaign. And I always think about that. We're 23 issues into Canto, and that's what I'm DMing Canto's adventure right now.
I mean, right?
Isn't that what a writer is?
It's just the DM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the characters have to do what you tell them.
You also forget. Well, I guess this is a DM. I was going to say you also forget the immense amount of drinking and crying.
Right, and less snacks.
And less snacks, more snacks. That's all I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I wrote a sentence now. Bourbon, snacks.
I wrote a sentence. Little reward for me.
Yeah, there's I forget, it was a joke or something. Somebody on Twitter was a writer is like, I write a paragraph and then I take 6 hours off or something. I feel like I'm good for the day. That's 100% how it is.
I saw an interview between George R.R. Martin and Stephen King, and Martin was like getting on Stephen King's case. He's like, I write like
you make the rest of us look bad.
Yeah, he's like, you've written 6 books in the same time. It's like and Stephen King's like, well, I get a certain number of pages a day, and it's like he's like, pages.
He does.
You get pages a day.
Stephen King. Way back when, I think I heard him say he writes in the morning and then reads in the afternoon. And that's just his schedule. And that was when I set out. I don't know if folks know who are listening, but I was a practicing attorney for 17 years before I went writing full time in 2021. So when I went full time, I said, I'm going to do the Stephen King model where I call it consuming and producing. So I'm going to produce in the morning until the early afternoon, and I'm going to consume in the early afternoon. And you just ask me how many days over the course of 2 years
you've been successful.
I've actually done that.
How many?
Yeah, exactly. 0. But it's not, I mean, I do set out to do that.
But setting the goal is as useful as following it, right? Hopefully.
Well, and you get emails in, and they're fun emails, or you have to set a call, and they got to do it at 10 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. And you just kind of have to do that. A couple
of jerks ask you to be on a live stream on YouTube.
But this is bourbon time, so this is perfect. So it just is a matter of really setting that schedule, really adhering to it, but also setting those boundaries so that folks that you're working with, respect those boundaries as well. It's putting on the do not disturb and knowing that, if somebody's going to call you, they have to call you in the afternoon and that sort of thing. So I'm slowly getting to that point where I can set those boundaries. But when you're first setting, you get your first manager, literary manager. And if that manager calls you, you're going to answer that call no matter what you're doing, even if it's in the middle of your time, right? And then a couple years in, then you finally can be, put some parameters around your productivity time.
So they're mentioning in the chat here, Old Wolf is a big bourbon drinker too. Is there a favorite bourbon? What's your go-to?
Well, I like to say I'm all fancy. I like Michter's a lot, but that's super fancy. So I just go with the gallon of Bullet from Costco.
It gets into the same place, right?
Well, yeah. It also, I mean, it's a good bourbon. It's like, it's not the equivalent of $2 Chuck, because I don't want to belittle Bullet like that, but for their price point, it's a really good bourbon. So that, I think we have Four Roses in there. Tin Cup is really good. Larceny is really good for the value. So yeah, I think that's all of the bourbon knowledge that I would like to
pass along.
reveal for right now. I go my comics and I pull up my bourbon guide.
I mean,
and it's all tabbed.
All tabbed.
I got a Christmas bourbon bartender guide, so it's like all the different like mixtures you could do with bourbon. I was like, dang, I didn't realize there was this many. It's a full book.
I don't drink, so you guys are speaking a different language right now.
And I just like it on the rocks. So I don't like a lot of mix. I don't really. Old fashions are fine, Manhattans are fine, but I just like it on the rocks. And I think we have the bourbon guide where it's just the bourbons themselves, like halfway through, maybe.
Old Wolf says, "I'm loving this guy."
Just to bourbon talk, he was definitely on the fence for 50 minutes. As soon as we got the bourbon, he's like, "Oh."
I mean, that tracks with him.
I mean, it's in his defense, that's everybody in my real life too.
So you said Canto issue 23. When is that one dropping?
Oh, so we're 23 done.
23 done. And then when are you coming back?
So there's the last story arc of this big story cycle, the Shrouded Man cycle, is there's 6 issues that are coming, and it's going to be the last story arc. It's called A Place Like Home. We just got colors in for the first issue, and it's just, I think if you're a Canto reader, if you're a Canto fan, this is gonna hit everything. It's this one issue. It's got Canto being cool and heroic and doing the right thing, and then getting the rug pulled out from under him, and then having to go and do something else, and then there's peril there, and you're gonna feel emotional about this whole thing. So I wasn't this enthusiastic about this first, and it's weird to talk like this about your own work, but I saw Drew's art and Vittorio's colors on this issue, and it just clicked for me today. And I'm like, if I was just a reader of this book, it ticks all those boxes that I want to see for a comeback, because we haven't had a new issue since last August.
It's been a while, yeah. And do you know when they're coming?
It will be this year. We are in. There will be a big fancy new announcement for Canto and the Cantoverse coming this year, and we are just a little bit on the early side to actually share a lot of those details yet. But Canto is it's going to be kind of a new chapter in the Cantoverse will be beginning, and I think I personally am thrilled about it, because we're going to get. I mean, I think I can tell this much on the podcast, which is we're going to be getting the hardcovers that folks have been asking for. I want them on my own shelf.
Right.
Yeah.
Those beautiful hardcovers that we want. And there's going to be more Canto coming down, more new stories in addition to reprints and that sort of thing. And we're going to have some new merchandise and just a lot of Canto excitement that we've really been building up this time between the last issue and this new issue that's coming. Come on, Mama. Movie is in development, so we are actively working on it.
Oh, I want an old school animated film is what I want, like one of those classic, like Land Before Time, Bluth era.
Secret of Nim.
Secret of Nim, such an influence for us. But John, you might have to settle for a high budget massive CGI live action Avatar
Right.
type
All right.
fantasy epic.
Immersive James Cameron-esque.
Yeah.
Motion capture. We've got a 6-year-old kid,
Just running around.
little Canto. Yeah.
I just thank you so much for doing this, David. I really appreciate you taking the time and hanging out with us and just shooting the breeze, because I've gotten to know you a little bit through these kind of interviews, and it's always been one of the more enlightening conversations to talk about just creation and just silliness,
Bourbon,
and that.
And Simpsons.
Old Wolf says, but it has to be a Blu-ray or VHF. I think they mean VHS. I want to make it. I want to make a Canto VHS. I'm going to do it. So, thanks. It's it's always fun to come on and talk. Yeah, there you go. There's the cover. It's going to be a clamshell. It's going to be an old school clamshell VHS.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
It's going to be vacuum. It's going to be factory sealed with watermarks, because I'm a tape head when it comes to VHS. So,
I still have my VHS player. It's plugged into one of the biggest TVs in the world. In other words, just like depth
I need to
wise,
get
not
one.
width.
yeah. Right.
I need to get one, but I'm on the VHS collecting wagon. That is the factory sealed wagon. So I'm not playing any of
Yeah, you
these
don't need to
things.
watch any of them, right?
It's nice to see them. Like on my shelf right now, I have Last Unicorn, Legend, Heavy Metal, Raiders.
Wait, Legend, the Tom Cruise movie?
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
You mean the Tim
my God,
Curry
it's one of
movie?
The Tim Curry movie. The Tim Curry
Yes.
movie. The Tim Curry movie.
The Unicorn Tim Curry movie, yeah. And Last Unicorn I loved. And then I have all Tales from the Crypt, the TV show, and Monsters. If anybody remembers the show Monsters, where you fly through the opening is you fly through like space and sky and come down to the suburban house, and you go through the front window of the suburban house, and there's a family sitting there watching TV, and you come around, and the father's like a blob, the mother is a cyclops, and the daughter's a cyclops in the movie, and this TV comes on and says Monsters, and it's just weird,
Yes.
scary stories, anthology show that I love. So I have all the VHS of those.
That's fantastic.
Sealed.
That I could not have told you I remember that show until you just described that.
And do you remember everybody remembers the opening?
Yeah.
I don't remember it at all, so clearly I missed it.
Oh, John.
I know. Clearly, I got a Simpsons episode to watch, and I got a TV series with monsters to watch.
Well, you know what I say when anybody hasn't experienced something that I love is that you get the joy of experiencing it for the first time, and I will never have that again. So
something to look forward
fun.
to. Right?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it doesn't really hold up, but it'd be fun to watch.
Not much does aside from Saturday morning cartoons, right?
Dungeons and Dragons specifically.
Yeah.
Full circle.
So huge thank you to you, David. The links for your Instagram and for IDW's page where people can order copies of this issue and the upcoming issues. Sorry, my cat just found a box. This is hilarious. It's all in the description of the video. And I also dropped some links at the beginning of the show for David's Whatnot and for places where they can buy the trades and the issues for specs when from Boom Studios when that comes along.
August, I think.
August. Okay, great. So definitely check with your LCSs too and get on FOC for some of these titles and trades so that you can be getting them monthly at your shop as well. Thank you again, David.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to more Canto and more Dungeons and Dragons. So this is perfect.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Anything else coming up? I think we hit on everything for you, so we're good. Right?
Oh, for me?
Yeah. Anything else coming up that you want to mention? I feel like clearly I got to go buy Firefly now too. I got to get some Firefly
you got to do
trades.
Firefly. There's a couple of things coming, but again, we're a little bit early in the process. So I think we'll be doing this again approximately this time next year for something else that's coming down the pike that we're all going to love together.
Wonderful.
That's exciting.
Excellent.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming and staying in the chat. Make sure you check out all those links, and we'll see you back here next month. We're over on Alex's channel to look at books from April, And so you want to be subscribed over there. Alex's channel is linked down below as well. Good night, everybody.
Bye.